everyone to the Build a Color-Coded Map Data Project. I'm Christine Chin. I'm a project manager with Be My App. I'll actually be assisting with the meetup tonight, and I'd like to introduce you to the Kintone team. So the Kintone team, they have a 20 plus years combined of coding experience. We have Will and Genji from Tokyo, where they run the Kintone developer program. And from the Bay Area, we have Nim, a Kintone evangelist promoting teamwork and low-code solutions. They are here today to give back and help out the next generation of coders. Nim will be our speaker tonight for the workshop, and Will, Genji, and myself will be answering questions on the Zoom chat. So feel free to post any questions there anytime. And lastly, I wanted to let you know that we do have a post-event survey at the end of this meetup, and I will share that with you at the end. We want to hear from you. We want your feedback. We want to hear your thoughts. And so each person who takes the post-event survey will be entered into a raffle. The raffle is a $25 Amazon gift card. So stay tuned and make sure you stay till the end and take the post-event survey. And with that, I will let Nim take it away.
Thanks a lot, Christine.
Sure.
I'd like everyone at this point to go ahead and introduce themselves. So go ahead and just type in the chat like, hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. And, maybe you want to say I've been, go ahead and say like, this is my first time here at these kind of workshops, or, I've been doing this 3 years. And then also tell us your favorite food. We're going to get real opinionated about this tonight. So, I'm joined by my colleagues Will and Genji. Will, Genji, would you guys mind just typing in the chat as well? What is your favorite food? Cecilia, thank you so much for being our first one in. You've attended the workshop several times now. You've enjoyed it very much, and we really appreciate having you back. It's a treat to have repeat students. And Genji, you're currently obsessed over cold ramen. Ordinarily, Genji, I would firmly disagree with you on that, but I gotta say the temperature in my office right now is like way too hot for soup. So I'm feeling it, man. Will from Japan, here for katsu curry. That's pork cutlets. It's a very traditional choice, Will. I totally understand. We've got Mariela from Argentina. Welcome, Mariela. It's so great to have. So are you currently in Argentina right now, or do you hail from Argentina and currently you're elsewhere? Okay, while she's typing that out, you're in Argentina. Awesome. Unfortunately, my Spanish is atrocious. My wife is Brazilian, but I know that doesn't help us very much. So if I tried, it would just be not Spanish. It would be Portuguese. So thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us all the way from Argentina. So we've got Argentina, Tokyo. I'm joining from Berkeley, California. We've got people online here from Portland. And Amy, favorite food pizza. Amy, welcome back. And thanks for being with us. So actually we've got, Amy, Wandia, and Cecilia, you guys are all been with us before. So it's really great to have you. Mariela, you're the first timer. And if we've got anybody else on the line that'll join us, well, then we'll just see what that's about. So at this point, let's just go into some setup. If you have not already downloaded the code and the slide deck, please go ahead and do that. The link is available for you on the screen, and then Genji will also post a link momentarily. If you have not already signed up for a Kintone developer program account, please go ahead and do that. And if you have not already signed up for a developer license, please do that. Amy, Wandia, and Cecilia, if you've had trouble doing that in the past, but that's now sorted out. There's no further action for you to take. But if you've had trouble in the past and there's still something to sort out, please let Will or Genji know, and we'll make sure that you get what you need. to get these accounts set up. Mariella, not to call you out, but you're the only person here who wouldn't have known to sign up for a developer license and a developer program account unless you got the emails. So please, if you have not done that already, go right ahead. And then since there's just so few of us, we're going to do something a little different today. You guys can feel free. Typically, I would encourage you to post questions in the chat at any time. But if you even just want to interrupt me and unmute yourself and ask whatever question you want, you are totally welcome to do that. We will stop everything for you because of our small but mighty group that's with us today. I think that should be really, really nice. And also, I'm noticing like I'm managing a few monitors in front of me, so I might be looking in various different directions of the screen. It might not look like I'm talking to you, but I'm actually I'm almost certainly looking at you in some way, even if my direction of my head is not showing. Okay, that was all set up. Actually, I've got more set up for you, which is when you go to GitHub to download the code and the slides, you'll see this page. This is the gist. And you'll see there's a download zip on the top right-hand side of the page. This is where you can download everything, that download zip button. If you just want the slides, you're going to click only the slides.pdf. And then if you want to view the other files, you can scroll down as well. Let me just get a quickly type in the chat. If you've already signed up for the developer program, you've already signed up for the developer license, just go ahead and let me know. To sign up for a developer account, you need to use a browser that is not Safari. So Chrome, Firefox, and there will be likely be like some message asking you to accept cookies. Please make sure you do that. And then you'll go ahead and you'll sign up for the developer program. The link is over there, and Genji has already made that available. Thank you so much, Dan. And then signing up for a developer license. You can go ahead and again, Genji has made those links available. You're going to fill out that form, and you should receive an email at that point in time. Please check your promotions folder. Please check your spam folder. Very, very rare that you'll get it in your spam folder, but if you haven't received it after you've applied, please go ahead and do that. What I'd like to do is ask you guys to raise your hand on Zoom. And the way that you're going to do that is you're going to go to the Zoom menu bar, and there's a participants button. Please click on it. And once you click on that participants button in the Zoom menu, you're going to click raise hand. It's the participants window will show up. There are going to be possibly 3 buttons over there. One of them says raise hand. Go ahead and raise your hand right now. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Cecilia. And great. Jose, thank you. Wandia, thank you. Great. Marielle, we're giving you like 3 things to do at once. You're doing great. Go ahead and raise your hand whenever you're ready. And Daniel, welcome. Thanks for joining us. What we're going to do right now, we're just going to do a quick hand raise. So in this intimate session, I want to make sure that everyone knows how to participate. So thank you very much for raising your hand. Mariella, for you, on Zoom, there will be a net. Perfect, you found it. Excellent. Well, that covers everybody. Let's keep moving. So why are you here today? Well, you're here to build a color-coded map, and we're here to help you learn how to do that. And to do it with no servers, that is to say with you spinning up no servers, and to do that with a data visualization. Real quick, just a little bit about us. Genji and Will are my colleagues from Kintone. They run our developer program out of Tokyo. They're really, really great, and they're here to answer any one of your questions. So if at any point in time you get stuck, please you can go ahead and ask out loud, or I might direct you to them as necessary. And then as for me, well, my name is Nim, and there we go. My name is Nim, and I'm the technical evangelist here at Kintone. And what that means is I help folks understand what's possible with our platform and how they can use it to solve all sorts of interesting problems. Now, technical evangelist is an interesting role. You know, when I learned how to code, the rules that were presented to me were primarily like development, like, hey, you know, learn how to be a software engineer, which was excellent. I got my software engineering education at a coding bootcamp called Hack Reactor, which has since been purchased by Galvanize. I got hired as a sales engineer from there. So a sales engineer is another kind of career path that you can find for those of you who have technical knowledge. What happens is when you are interested, if you're a prospect or a potential customer interested in buying a piece of software, you can call up the company and ask to speak with someone to determine if the product is right for you. And typically you'll speak with a salesperson first. And if you get to a level of technical need that is more sophisticated than what the salesperson is tasked with, they will invite a technical expert on the line to help answer all of your questions. That technical expert is known by various names. Solutions consultant is one of them. Sales engineer is another. And so that's what I did. I was talking to folks about what's possible with our platform, but in a customer acquisition context. I loved doing it. I was promoted to lead sales engineer, and then I ended up managing our sales engineering team for a year before transitioning into this technical evangelist role. I share this with you so that you know what kind of questions you can ask me that I could be helpful with, not just about software engineering, but also about like career opportunities for you in the software space that go beyond simply software engineering and that might take advantage of other skills that you might have, like, connecting with people or, helping people talk through their technical problems. Today, we're going to be doing two core things. First, we're going to build a visualization project together using Kintone. And then everyone is going to walk away with a project that they can work on. I've got some very exciting news for those of you who have already joined us in our previous trainings, which is that if you've been with us for our Bubble Cloud training, we're going to do an even more sophisticated type of map that's going to teach you some more options for what's possible with data visualization. If you are a front-end developer who wants to spend less time setting up your back-end infrastructure, if you want to concentrate on the look and feel of your project, or if you want to spin up a project quickly and you want to just keep, in your journey of learning how to code, you want to spin up projects more frequently, then this workshop is for you. And we're going to do four things today. First, we'll introduce Kintone. Then we will create a Kintone app. I'll tell you more about what that is in just a little bit. We will then display amCharts on Kintone. amCharts is a data visualization library. And then we will talk about how to call REST APIs from Kintone so that you can pipe data in from elsewhere and have that data be visualized. Okay, let's jump right in. What is Kintone? So Kintone is a no-code, low-code cloud platform for teams to easily share and collaborate on their data efficiently. In other words, Kintone is designed for folks to take their day-to-day business operations that they might They might have it. They might be doing in various different kinds of solutions, or they might be having various different conversations in different places and putting it all in one place. For business users, that's advantageous in terms of a no-code, in terms of being a no-code platform, because it allows them to take their current skill set without needing to code anything and build custom business applications that will streamline their experience of day-to-day operations. And that's typically what a no-code platform does. It targets folks who don't know how to code and gives them a very like a palette of configuration that they can build a lot of things with. But because it's no code, it's sort of on rails in certain respects. Now, in contrast, a low-code platform is aimed at developers. Developers, software engineers, have a lot of different things to pay attention to, especially if you're in an organization where your software engineers are tasked with, you've got this huge backlog, and typically the backlog is given by what the business requirements are. If you can turn those business requirements around faster, that allows you to focus on more problems or more difficult problems, which is the advantage of a low-code platform, which we can build stuff very, very quickly that is kind of like what's typically asked for, so that you can focus on the harder problems. Likewise, the advantage of a no-code platform for software engineers is that business users can solve their own problems, which take things out of the engineering backlog and allow the engineers to focus on more interesting stuff. I think this is really useful to share from a career perspective, because whether you're already in an engineering organization, or you're already or you're looking to join an engineering organization, I really want you to understand from an organizational perspective the value of a no-code and a low-code platform for you as an engineer. Even if you never touch a no-code platform, even if it's given to other people in your organization, it frees you up to focus on stuff that's going to add more value to the organization. So is Kintone no-code or low-code? It's actually both. And that's because business users can spin up these custom business applications, what we call apps, without needing to code. But then developers and engineers can build customizations using JavaScript that are going to soup up what the business users are asking for that they were not able to self-serve with. And that's really valuable. Now, I just mentioned an app a moment ago, and I want to spend a little bit more time talking about what an app is. You can imagine a spreadsheet in a workbook, or a table in a database where we store records. The main unit of data in Kintone is a record. And what you can see is an app allows you to create easy visualizations and filtered lists, what we call views, based on the values that are in that app. In other words, based on those records. It's really easy to create apps with Kintone, and you do that primarily with a drag and drop form builder. If you're an engineer, this is super easy to do. Again, it's just one of those examples of, hey, I can build something real quick, send it out, and then focus on the tougher problem. So instead of needing to build pages from scratch, you've got something that can spin something up very quickly, and that allows you to focus on these, client-side JavaScript customizations that you are using to tweak or to make the app more extensible and hit those more challenging user requirements. Okay, so what does this have to do with no servers? Well, with Kintone, you can lean on Kintone to become your server that runs your database. You don't need to spin something up from scratch. You can build these databases with this graphical user interface, with this GUI, and that allows you to focus on the front-end work or the integrations, or just, again, that more challenging and interesting developer work. Proceed with creating a Kintone app. So we talked about how Kintone is an app is like you can imagine it like a table and a database or a spreadsheet and a workbook. So you can imagine, there's a lot of room for what you could create in Kintone. What kind of database could we make? We could use a CRM. We could build expense reporting. We could build a database of board games. These are just some examples. But they're also just kind of useful for you to have in your pocket as you're thinking of, what kind of projects can I do? What can I add to my portfolio? And any one of these is totally valid. Let's walk through how we're going to build an app. And what I will do is I will walk through the steps one by one. And then when we get to the end, I will turn it over to you to try. Typically, I find somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes is an appropriate amount of time to give you. And you'll also have this deck available to go back and forth with, and I can also skip around as needed to make sure you guys get what you need to build your first app. So it sounds like everybody is signed up for a developer license. If you have, but you have not yet brought in your information, you can go ahead and check your email. You should see an email that'll say, welcome to Kintone, one more step to developer license, and then it'll give you a link to your subdomain, which is your environment that you created. I am going to, please at this point in time, go ahead and log into your environment if you have not already. What I'm calling the environment, we actually refer to as a subdomain. When you log in, you will see there are 2 places to go. There's administration and Kintone, and you're going to go ahead and click Kintone. And when you do, you'll be taken to the portal. This is the portal. This is the main page in Kintone. The portal. And what we're going to do is we're going to create our first app. You'll notice there is a section in this portal that says apps on the right hand side. And there's a plus sign over there that we're going to click. When we click on that plus sign, we're going to be taken to this page called the Kintone Marketplace. And we're going to create an app from scratch. It's that first big button there, front and center. That's going to take us to the form builder. Oops, sorry. This form builder, this is the page where we are dragging and dropping the fields to create our app. The first thing that we're going to do before any dragging and dropping, we will create a new, we will title our new app. So let's rename it. It's going to say new app. We'll move it to Board Game DB. And from there, we will start dragging and dropping fields. We're going to drag and drop a text field. And then we're going to go to the field settings to that text field. We will do that by hovering over that gray gear icon and then clicking settings, at which point we will be taken to that field's settings. There are a few changes we want to make over here. First is to rename the field. We're going to call it name. And the second thing that we're going to do, actually that's all of them. Then we'll drag a drop-down field. And we'll go into the field settings, just like we did with the text field. And this time when we configure the settings, we're going to make a few changes. First, the name. And then second, the options. We're going to change drop-down and sample 1 and sample 2 to name, to type, and then abstract and area control. These are different kinds of board games. And actually, we're going to then click on that plus sign and add a new option called drafting, the drafting type of. We'll save that. We'll save these field settings. Now, just one quick thing to note over here. You'll notice at the bottom of these settings, we have something called field code. And a field code is what Kintone uses behind the scenes as a unique identifier for each one of these fields. For now, all you need to know is that they exist. And later on in our session today, we will talk about field codes again because they will show up in the code. But aside from that, we don't need to worry about them right now. Just know that they're there and know that later I'll ask you to recall this conversation about field codes. Once we've set up our text field and our drop-down field, we have our app ready to go. There's a big blue button on the right-hand side of the page that says Activate App, and this is what we are going to click on to move our app from the development environment to production. That's it. Now, in our portal, we'll see now there is this new app where there was nothing before, and it says Board Game DB. That's how you create an app in Kintone. Easy peasy. Now, when you start filling an app in with data, you'll see that there's some more relevant pieces of the app that you'll want to attend to, like creating a new record at the top right of the screen, or reviewing the existing data, which will be in front of you in a table format, very much like what you would expect if you were expecting to interact with something like a spreadsheet or a table in a database. And then on the left-hand side, we have these blue thumbnails, which allow us to drill down into the record and see all of its fields. Okay. So what we're going to do right now is go ahead and create your first app with Kintone. For the folks who have already been with us and have created apps with Kintone beforehand, I invite you to try it again. If this is a little too elementary for you, go ahead and go crazy with it. Try some new things out. The reason why we don't call an app a table in a database or a spreadsheet is because an app has more functionality wrapped around it, substantially more. So I invite you guys to discover what other functionality does an app have that's not fully covered by just being like a static table or a spreadsheet. For those of you, this is your first time, go ahead and follow the steps over here. So I'll give you guys, the next step on today's agenda is to get this data visualization going. So we've got this layer, right? This database layer, this serverless database layer. And on top of it, we're going to add some charts and graphs, some fancy snazzy ones. You may have already noticed a few moments ago I spoke about Kintone's baked-in charts and graphs features, and yeah, we've got some of those, but this library is substantially more powerful. And it'll give you some interesting and fun coding challenges. Now, amCharts lets you make all sorts of different charts and graphs. You've got word clouds, you've got maps, all sorts of other graphs I don't even know the names for. And typically, the way that you would use this kind of library in your JavaScript projects would be in a few places. So first, in your HTML, you would create some kind of a div to hook your JavaScript behavior in. And it would typically be like an empty div. Then on the JavaScript side, in your code, you would create a script tag somewhere that would the code would then load up and instantiate variables from into the shared space, into the space of the executable code. And then you would instantiate the chart by first identifying the kind of chart you're creating and then creating code to spin it up. And then you define the data that would ultimately get piped in. Now on Kintone, a lot of this is simplified for you. You don't need to worry about creating a div. Kintone's platform has an API hook that'll just really nicely and easily grab that HTML div for you in a place that you want it. The script is something that we handle with configuration. The data is something that we have by referencing the data that's inside of Kintone, and that just leaves us with code to instantiate the chart. That keeps things smooth and keeps things moving for you. So what we're going to do when we bring amCharts onto Kintone is, first of all, we're going to upload some data, some sample data that we're going to then play with to build our chart. And then we're going to upload the amCharts library so that we can begin to incorporate it into our data and build these fancy data visualization tools. So just like the last time, what I'm going to do is I'll go over the steps for what to do and how to do it, and then I'll turn it over to you guys to build it yourselves. Now here's what's different from the last time. What we just did was we built a Kintone app from scratch. You'll notice that the app that we created had no data in it, and that's expected, right? Like you just created an app for nothing. There's no place to take that data from. We're going to do something different over here. Instead of dragging and dropping, we're going to use Kintone's CSV import wizard to like automatically create and populate an app based on existing data in a CSV file. After that point, we will configure the app to load the amChart libraries. We will add the custom JavaScript file that will instantiate the chart that we are looking for, and then we will redeploy the Kintone app with these changes. So the first thing we want to do is create a new Kintone app from a CSV file. And the way that we're going to do that is by taking sample data. We've already got some sample data for you. This is the highest earnings by country on esports. So it's going to show the top 100 countries' total earned prize money in US dollars. And just so you know, it's also going to show the player count. And we're going to generate from that a prize money per player figure, which is like essentially the per capita of prize money won. This is where you're going to go to get your CSV file. Genji is going to drop it in the chat momentarily. And then what you're going to do is save that CSV file. And then this is how you're going to upload that CSV file into Kintone. You'll add a new app from the portal, clicking the same button that you did before. But here is where things change for you. So in this Kintone marketplace, what we did before was create a new app from scratch. We will not do that this time. We are going to create an app from CSV by clicking on that button that says Create from CSV, which is immediately underneath the button that we pressed the last time. So we create the CSV, we click on that, and then we're going to go through a wizard that will direct us for the specific steps. It will ask us to check the formatting of the data to make sure it'll upload correctly. We've already done that for you, no problem. Then we'll upload the data, and then we will be asked to check to see if the fields that we have in the spreadsheet, in the CSV, are going to match the field types that we're creating in Kintone. Again, we've already done all of that for you. All you need to do is click OK. And then you're going to add the amCharts libraries to the app. So we've created this app, and now we can go into it. What you'll see is we have an already populated app. Excellent. This is exactly what we were expecting. From here, we click on the gear wheel in the white background. That's going to take us to our app settings. And we're going to click on the app settings tab. In the second column, second one down, there's a JavaScript and CSS customization, right? And we're going to click on that, and this is where we're going to configure the uploading of the JavaScript files. We're going to add these links, all 4 of them, to the file. I'm sorry, to the configuration over here. And Genji will drop those links in the chat momentarily. And then we're going to add the custom JavaScript file. So all 4 of the other ones we added via link. This one we download from the GitHub. And then we're going to add file instead of add link. Now, we will we got to make sure that the files are in this order, because the order matters, the execution order matters over here. And then we click the save button on the top left corner. And finally, we're going to redeploy the Kintone app by clicking that blue update app button. Once we do that, we'll be taken back to the Kintone Apps list view, the main page. And we should see a graph that looks very much like the one that we have in front of us right now. That's how you'll know we did something right. So, at this point in time, let's go ahead and get started. Go ahead and take 5 minutes. We'll check in after 5 minutes, see how we're doing. This is your time to just get your hands dirty and ask questions. So go ahead and follow these steps right now. The map, and I have a lot less green compared to the slides. Glory.
Who's managed to earn $126,000 prize money.
Yeah, here you go. 100.
Nice.
Then you can see all the records, and you just keep zooming to the max. Oh, sure. And if you go right here, wow. Congratulations, mister. You must be
Amazing,
famous.
though.
All right.
When we last left our intrepid heroes, we were configuring, we spun up a new app on Kintone by importing CSV data, and then we uploaded some JavaScript files to the app, and there were 4 files that we linked to, and one that we added as a file, and then we updated the app, and we saw our graph. We might have needed to set it to see 100 records instead of 20, but now we've got this kind of very nice looking chart in front of us. So then, what's going on behind the scenes? This is the meat of how this visualization stuff works. To get to it, we'll first talk about the libraries that we hooked into and configured in our app configuration back end. First was the core amCharts library. Then we needed a library for creating maps. Then we needed a geodata package. That's going to basically contain data of all of the countries and the polygons that they correspond to, the shapes of the countries that they correspond to, essentially. And then we also loaded up we also referred to a link which contains the animated theme. It's going to provide smooth transitions. So those are the 4 libraries we linked to. And then that 5th one, 03_map_scripts.js, this is where we made some magic happen. We're going to drill down into that customized JavaScript file and walk you through what you just executed. So there are 2 main parts to the code. If you have not opened it up at this point, I recommend you do. And I recommend that you open it up in a code editor. If you've got 2 monitors, you can follow along with the slide deck on one and the code on the other. You can also interchange your desktops on one monitor, or just follow along with us in the PowerPoint slide. We will have everything that you need to see over here in the PowerPoint. There are 2 main parts to this code. The first is about creating the immediately instantiated function expression and hooking into a Kintone event, and then loading the map. Then the second portion of the code is about grabbing the data and putting it into the map and then displaying the map the way that we want. Okay. Let's start with the first portion. So actually, we're going to start with line 1, and you'll notice that we're here in an immediately invoked function expression. So the way that we protect the scope of our work with a custom file that we load directly into Kintone is by capturing everything in this function expression so that there's no leakage into the global scope. From there, we are going to trigger based on a Kintone event. You have browser events you may already be familiar with, but there are Kintone events as well. And the reason why Kintone provides you with events to hook into is that you can guarantee that your code executes at specific times when what it would want to refer to is for sure already loaded. Okay, so that's why we're hooking into this event, and the event is called app.record.index.show. That simply tells us when we are looking at this list page that we've been using. And then we hook into this div. Instead of going into a separate HTML file, we've got a one-line method that we're calling, kintone.app.getHeaderSpaceElement.com. And what that does is it hooks into this div that gives us this area right over here that we can put something into. We call that space div, and then we begin to style it the way that we want, by giving it a border and some margins to make it clear where the map ends and the rest of Kintone starts. From here, we're going to start loading up some of the amCharts map behavior. First, we're going to instantiate the animated theme. So this is going to animate the amCharts actions. It's going to provide for a smooth UI experience. And then we create the map instance. We indicate the div that we're hooking into and what will be in it. Then we're going to hook the world map information. Again, what are the countries? What polygons do they correspond to? And then we're going to set a projection. Now, there are many different ways to display maps. I'm not even talking about computers. I'm just talking about maps. We've got all different ways to show maps. And all of these different ways of showing maps are different ways of solving a problem called, how do I get a globe and unfold a globe in such a way that I can press it on a piece of paper and show it in a helpful manner. Now, of course, if you take, a globe and you kind of like peel away, like imagine it's an orange and you're peeling away the orange and try to press an orange flat on a table, you'll notice that you've got distortions. There'll be some kind of distortion. Either the map will chunk up, like you'll get kind of small chunks of orange in random places, so that they're not that there are spaces that were next to each other on the globe that are not next to each other anymore. Or you'll need to change the size of various different parts of your map. You're keeping everything rectangular. All of that is to say that these are different ways of projecting a sphere onto a three-dimensional sphere onto a two-dimensional sheet. And there are different kinds of projections, and we're using the one called the Miller projection. That's what that is. So that was a lot of information that goes beyond just learning how to code. I suggest you kind of tuck that away and make that available as cocktail party material. Because if you sat through that and you understood it, you earned it. You can definitely cocktail party that. So we do that over here. We're importing this world low, which imports this map data. The reason why we're calling it low is it's got lower resolution in terms of country position and trips. That might also be the reason why Gibraltar is only a dot. Maybe if it were high resolution, we get 3 dots. And it's, of course, if it's higher resolution, it's slower to work with. And here's a little bit more about taking a 3-dimensional sphere and presenting it as a 2-dimensional chart. You'll see over here some dudes trying to spread a globe out on the floor. There are a bunch of different kinds of projections you can choose. You can feel free to do a deep dive on this later. And here are the different kinds of, there are like 3 common projections that you might see. The Mercator projection was actually the one that I grew up with, which it distorts shapes so that the farther away from the equator you go, the larger they seem. So for example, Greenland is heavily distorted and not nearly that big. The Miller cylindrical is another kind of distortion, but you'll see that it makes instead of distorting as much lengthwise, it distorts widthwise, and that has some kind of compensatory effect. And then there's the Winkle triple, which shapes everything as a globe, flattened. It's not a cylinder. What shape is that? Whatever shape it is, that's what it does. And that's all we have to say about projections today. From here, we're creating the map polygon series. So basically, we need some way to assign the shapes that we have on this map to the countries that we're associated with. And that's what this map polygon series does. And then we also want to exclude Antarctica, because if we included it, it would take up a lot of space on the map. And we don't, I'm pretty sure there's no eSports winners from Antarctica. So I'm not really worried about any data distortions over there. And then we are going to import various parts of the geodata, like to mesh the geodata with the polygon shapes. We're also going to do something called Calculate Visual Center. Calculate Visual Center is a setting that finds like the average point in a polygon, like the centermost point in a polygon, that you can then hook behavior into later. Like if you wanted to show all of the numbers in the chart without having to hover over it, those numbers, it would be most intuitive to display those numbers in the center of the polygon. That's what Calculate Visual Center does. And then Tooltip Position fixes that hover over tooltip to the position of the mouse. So you'll see these lines, there's just a lot of configuration going on.
Sorry, not to the position of the mouse, position of the center.
Well, what I noticed for tooltip position, it's fixed. It travels with the mouse, if I'm not mistaken. So if it's
when the mouse is hovering over the country,
yes,
the data is pulled so that there is the calculated visual center, and that's where the information pops up.
Got you. So in this, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to answer Mandy's question. So the visual center, it depends on the projection. So the projection would change the visual center of each country. So if that is factored in.
Mandy, does that answer your question? It's a great question. Mostly. Okay, what's missing? Okay, interesting. I have no human eye perception sees center as different. Oh, that's really fascinating. Do you mind writing another 1 or 2 sentences about this and teaching everyone, I suspect, maybe not everyone, but many of us, about visual center and true center and the distinction between them? This is fascinating stuff. You can also unmute yourself. your day. Mandy, I'm sure you're typing away. We're gonna keep going. Okay, great. It's just how if you measure exactly in the center, it doesn't always look like it from the rest. I see. I got you. So there's what looks true, looks like true center, but there's what looks like center for humans. Then there's the actual center as it's positioned based on the polygon. Cool.
I'm just checking the docs. It does state that it's going to be the visual center of the polygon, and it's not going to be the geometrical center.
Got you. Or I think in Mandy's terms, optical versus metric. So it'll display the optical center, not the metric center. Mandy, thank you so much for adding that little gem in. That was super, super cool to learn. Thanks for not being shy about that. All right. Where are we? Tooltip position. Yep. Oh, I was saying the tooltip position, it hovers in the same place. I guess I was mistaken then. I was under the impression that the tooltip position, it was fixed according to where, like following the mouse.
If you remove those last two lines, that will happen. And if you include those last two lines, it'll be shown in the center.
Okay, clear. We also have heat rules, which have to do with the colors and the way that the colors are displayed on the map. We've given what we call the min color and the max color, which give us our range in green, which you can see over here. And this is the min color and this is the max color. The target tells us where the min and the max will happen. And then logarithmic is kind of the way of scaling the colors so that based on the values, the gradient will show up a certain way. And then, here's the portion where if you're hovering, this is taking these lines of code show us. They format the tooltip is what they do. So the tooltip looks the way that it does based on these lines. And then, we've actually, before I do that, let me sum over here. As you can see, there are a lot of settings over here. And, as a developer, as an engineer, a lot of times the really nice thing about working with these libraries is when you get comfortable reading code, building out snazzy data visualizations just becomes a matter of piping data into the right place, making sure that it looks and feels the way that you're expecting, and then piping it onward as needed. So this part of the code over here has to do with piping that data in. So we spent all of this time building this chart, making sure that it looks a certain way, making sure that it's going to function the way that we expect when we interact with it. Now, where is the data coming from? So the data is already in Kintone, but we need some way to connect it. And that's what this event object is. Kintone exposes an event object, which you might recall from the beginning of our code, when we said we're hooking into an event. It's an event called app.record.index.show, and it exposes this event object that we can begin to interact with. Okay, so you'll see very briefly over here, we take this event object, we pull off a record, and then we are using the map method to turn the shape of the record. Turn the array of records into a different array that's shaped differently. And in fact, it's going to have like the name of the country and the prize money per player is what it's going to show. So let's talk a little bit more about the event object. In Kintone, the event object is going to contain all of the data within a list view. And it'll also have some other information as well. The data in this list view, this kind of table that we've been working with, it'll get it all from here. And the way that we interact with it is by hooking into the parameter that's passed in as part of this event handler. So what does it look like? Well, you'll see over here that this event object's quite large. We've got all of our records over here, as well as some other pieces of metadata about the this app. And here we're showing our array of record objects, which we will then pull off the properties that we want, and then we will map them, which is what you're seeing over here. Now, remember when we spoke about field codes earlier? I told you, hey, we'll come back to this. In the field settings for each field needs a unique identifier. And what we've gone ahead and done is we use those unique identifiers to refer to the values that those fields hold when we go into the event object and pull off each record. So we've got this particular address, basically, this particular location where we will find the value of the field in the record, and we will need to use the field code to refer to the correct field. Okay. And then finally, once we've structured all of this data the way that we want, we are going to pass it in as data into the chart. That data is going to be in a JSON format. So it will look like a JavaScript object, which is what JSON stands for, JavaScript Object Notation. And then we also, and by the way, at this point, this is kind of like bonus information. If you're following along with us very clearly, great. Here's more cool stuff to do. But if you're not, that's okay. You can imagine right now we are in bonus territory. What we are doing in these lines is we are setting up functionality that amCharts bakes in that lets us export our chart. And so what we're doing over here is we are turning on the export menu, essentially instantiating it. And then we are telling amCharts where to align it, and we're giving it some appropriate colors. Then we're doing something very similar with our zoom controls. We are adding the ability to zoom in and out of the map. We are giving we're setting up a home button that lets us reset the map. And then we are disabling the scrolling function so that instead of using this, like if you have a scroll button, or if you have a scroll wheel, that's the word I was thinking of. If you have a scroll wheel on your mouse, the scroll wheel, instead of zooming in and out of the chart, it will let you scroll up and down the Kintone record list page, which is typically what people want to use it for when they're in that list. So what have we done so far? We learned what Kintone is and what it's good for. We created a Kintone app. We created a data visualization setup. So and we piped in some sample data by importing a CSV. But really, if we're doing some interesting projects, you know, the gold standard here is to be able to pipe data in from some stream of data, like an API, for example. So not necessarily piping in from a CSV. Now here's the catch. REST API calls are made from servers typically, not from your browser. If you try to make an API call from your browser, you'll typically get an error flow. Especially, and actually, we're talking specifically in the case of you making a call to an API that is on another website than the one that you are currently on. Let me give you an example. Let's say I'm on google.com and I start interacting. I use my console to interact with XKCD, which is a famous webcomic, and I'm interacting with the XKCD API to retrieve comic images. Well, I will get an error over here, what's called a CORS error, which stands for Cross-Origin Resource Sharing. Cross-origin resource sharing. In other words, I am not allowed, if I am on a website, I am not allowed to go over there to another website and get a resource. I am not allowed to be on an origin, cross over to another origin and share a resource where I am. And that's for security reasons. So if I'm running client-side JavaScript code in Kintone, I need a way to call the XKCD API or the Star Wars API or whatever API I want without triggering a CORS error. And the way I do that is by having the Kintone server make that API call on my behalf. In other words, by having Kintone act as a proxy server. There is a method that is available to you in your code called Kintone.proxy. It's going to call REST APIs from your client-side JavaScript without running into any of these CORS errors. And the way that it works is like what you see over here on the page, on the slide in front of you. You're very much like any API call. You are calling an address, like a specific API endpoint. You're clarifying the method, any headers, the request body, and then you have the ability to hook in to callbacks. Although if you ignore these, that's okay too. The proxy method will return a promise object. Cecilia is asking, unless XKCD exposed their own set of API for us to use, right? Actually, Cecilia, I think you may be misunderstanding one of the concepts over here, because actually XKCD is exposing an API. What we're doing is we're interacting with it by calling it, like we would fetch or fetch or post information to another website. We'll say, go to this address over here, this specific URL where XKCD or an XKCD server is sitting there twiddling its thumbs and waiting to receive a request. And when we get there, we will tell that server what method we are coming with, as well as any appropriate headers and data that we need in order to successfully execute the request, in order for the API to successfully execute the request. Then we receive a response from the API. Now, the CORS errors has to do with whether or not XKCD allows us to, whether XKCD allows us to access its API from a client-side other site, which it's not, and for good reason too. Imagine that you are on a site like, friendlywebsite.com. The friendlywebsite.com has secretly been hijacked by some malicious code. And the malicious code is telling you, go to, evilwebsite.com and get this information. Well, we want to, so actually, I believe it's Google that prevents the, so it would be friendly website that's preventing you from going to evil website and having yourself get hijacked. So the cross-origin resource sharing is a way to pass all of your requests through an external server, so that it's not your machine that is an attack, that is a vector for problems. Here's an example of making a Kintone proxy call. And what we've done over here is, in a specific event, in other words, when we are in this list view, go ahead and execute Kintone proxy. We're using a get method, and we're going to go to a specific URL. And then we have no headers we need to pass in. There's no data we need to pass in. And then once we receive the function, go ahead and parse it in a particular way and show, and make it so that it'll show up as a window. So the nice thing about the Kintone proxy is that it'll return a promise object, and that it can work with any browser, including with the Internet Explorer. Questions so far? Okay. I want to spend some time right now doing a deeper dive into the features and benefits of Kintone so that you know how to use it in your projects, and you also know how to use it to add value to the organization that you're working for or with, so that you can make your teamwork better. And there are 3 core benefits to Kintone from our perspective as developers and as users of the platform. The first is project management, the second is sharing data, and the third is customization and integration. So the really strong key benefit of this process management on Kintone is that you can create a workflow and pass it to the right person at the right time. And typically this is for day-to-day operations. Could be expense reports, could be like some kind of a customer acquisition process or a hiring process. And the nice thing about it is that people are getting hooked in to taking action only when they need to. You can also create users, groups, or departments that segment your user base so that they can collectively see the right things at the right time, and then share data with them. And this is what we think is really incredible about the platform, is that you've got your data and you've got your conversations about your data, and typically together they're like in a dozen different places. So you've got spreadsheets, email, you've got your text message channels, maybe somebody's sending you stuff on Messenger, you've got Slack, you've got other files, you've got point solutions and customer portals and intranets, and like lots and lots of different places to put your data, which is a problem because it makes it very hard to find what you're looking for. It takes time, a lot of time, and the experience of doing it sucks. So Kintone allows you to put your data and the conversations about your data all in one place. And then making sure that the people who are seeing it are allowed to be seeing the right things. So you've got very granular permission controls. And you can also hook Kintone in to existing web apps like HubSpot, Zendesk, Slack, for example. And then you can use this, like we're talking about with this REST API functionality, you can hook that behavior and create this platform for pushing data into like a collaboration layer. So you can imagine your data is sitting on one layer, and you've got another layer for collaboration. Just like we were talking about, you can use Kintone to talk to these other apps, and you can do that by using webhooks. Webhooks are event-driven data pushes from the Kintone platform to some other URL that's waiting to receive the data in that shape. And then you also have API tokens that you can generate to very granularly set up permissions with these third-party servers. You've got a tremendous amount of flexibility on the platform, so you can build with any view you want. These two are Will's examples. So Will actually created what's called a custom view that allows you to play Space Invaders with Kintone, and then another one that replicates the Star Wars crawl. And the reason that we did this is because we wanted to show you just how flexible it is to look in any kind of HTML, JavaScript, or CSS to make this collaboration platform whatever you want it to be. What else is cool about that is you can create customizations and then wrap them in like a single page application, or even just a regular page for non-coders, for business users, for non-technical people to use, simply by having configuration access to settings that you've coded up. Now, we call these plugins. In other words, customizations that have this configuration feature wrapped around them, and we can make them available to our ecosystem. This could be a cool project that you could charge our ecosystem for if you wanted to, or make it available for free and open source it. So let's talk about what we did today. We introduced you to Kintone. We created a Kintone app. We used imported CSV data on esports to display a map chart, a color-coded map chart. And then we talked about how you would go about using piping data into Kintone so that you can then display these data visualizations. Now, again, why would you want to use Kintone for your project? You don't need to set up or deal with any kind of server-side behavior. You can create these databases very easily with this GUI that allows you to then focus on the more interesting challenges and focusing on that front-end aspect. And then you can also use these REST APIs to call, to pipe in information into this client-side JavaScript code while avoiding CORS errors. I want to present some suggestions to work on next. You've got plenty of options in the amCharts demos section of their page, and GitHub makes available a list of publicly accessible APIs. So you can combine those two, and then perhaps if you wanted to use Kintone as a backend database, you can do that. You can also use, you can also hook node.js into Kintone via Heroku. So that's a project that we've got a link to for you over here. And if you've got any questions, you can always reach out the Kintone developer community forum, which you all should have access to at this point, as well as Stack Overflow, where you can find your questions answered over there. And I want to thank all of our participants for the time that you took to be with us. There are a lot of places that you can go to get trained. We appreciate that you chose to be here with us, and we're seeing some people come back again. So I just want to say, like, thank you for liking us. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad that you're getting value out of our time together. And then finally, I want to thank Christine, who I'm about to turn this over to. Christine, we've been working with you for quite some time now, and I just want to say it's a pleasure, and I really appreciate all the stuff that you do behind the scenes with Will and Genji, so that I can just, stand and deliver. I really appreciate that. And so, turning it over to you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Nim. Great job doing the presentation. I hope everyone learned something new tonight. Again, thank you so much for joining tonight. I did mention early on at the beginning of the meetup that there is a post-event survey. The bit.ly is on the screen here, and you can also use the QR code. If you take the survey, we will automatically enter you into a raffle. The winner will receive a $25 Amazon gift card, and I will draw that winner tomorrow. So please take the survey tonight. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts and get any feedback. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.